Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Why, hello, everyone. Can you believe it's Monday again? Yikes, what is time? Anyway, I am super excited today for you to meet the author that we have on. For all of my frequent listeners, you know that I have a werewolf pack set in Sedona, and I tell everyone that they have to go to Sedona. And today we have Amina Akhtar, who is here, who has a brand new thriller set in Sedona. What? So, of course, I had to have her on, right? I can't wait for you guys to meet her. She is really fantastic. So if you have not read the book yet, Kismet, you're in for a treat. I'm just going to read her bio here really quick so you can get to know her, and then we will have her on, and we will gut about Sedona. Anyway, Amina Akhtar is a former fashion writer and editor. Her satirical first novel, Fashion Victim, drew rave reviews and acclaim and was covered in the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Martha Stewart Living, Entertainment Weekly, Fashionista, Book Riot, Crime Reads, and more. Her new book, Kismet, takes on the world of wellness and all the crystals that go with it. This Own Voices novel is set in Sedona, Arizona, where nature is just as much character as anyone else. She has worked at Vogue, Elle, and New York Times and the New York Magazine, where she was the founding editor of the women's blog, The Cut. She's written for numerous publications, including Yahoo Style, Fashionista, XO Jane, Refinery 29, Billboard, and more. She currently lives not too far from Sedona, so I am super jealous, guys, from the vortexes, and Kismet is her second novel. I did put a link to her website right there on the Blog Talk site, so if you're listening live or if you're listening later, you can click that anytime and go take a look at what she has coming up. And without any further delay, are you there, Amina?
I am. Thanks for having me, Lisa. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. I can't wait to read your book. I've been reading about the book, and I'm very excited. So can you tell everybody about it, why they should go pre-order? It comes out for real next month, right?
No. It came out August 1st.
Oh, did it?
It's been
Okay.
out for about 2 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we had to wait. Okay.
Oh, no. There is no waiting. We like instant gratification here.
Right.
Shop in the door. Kismet is the book that I wrote because I had moved out to this area to be with my father because he lives out here. And I was like, this place is beautiful. Oh my gosh, I need a murder here. My first twisted reaction. And I know your readers know this, your listeners know this, but Sedona is probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Like, Sedona and northern Arizona in general, it's just unlike anything you've ever seen. And then, of course, my mind was like, oh, look, desert, lots of places to put bodies. This is fabulous. So that's how Kismet came to be. And it's a story of a woman, a Pakistani-American woman who grew up in Queens, under the thumb of an aunt who was just terrible. And she's trying to become empowered. She's trying to find herself. She's basically a doormat. And she meets this woman named Marley Dewhurst, and Marley's a bit of a socialite, comes from money, and Marley wants nothing else but to be the next Gwyneth Paltrow. You know, she wants to have her own group. She wants that fame that goes along with it. And Ronnie sort of gloms on to her, you know, because Marley shows her some kindness, and they decide to move to Arizona. And as they get here, they find bodies because somebody is murdering the scammers in town, the ones who are taking money from tourists and not actually healing them. And the scammers are starting to show up in places, and it's a thriller mystery as to who's the murderer, but it's also about a woman trying to, you know, find herself and figure out who she is. And there are ravens in it. So just be prepared. There's ravens that literally will talk. So we have to enjoy that.
I was going to ask about this because I saw in many reviews that people were like, when do we get the Ravens book? So how did you come up with the idea of having ravens?
I was trying to figure out how to showcase or the wildness that's here, because that's the draw of coming out to this part of Arizona, right? It's the wildness,
right?
It's nature, it's seeing the red rocks, but it's also just being out in nature. And, where I live, so I'm about 20 miles away on a mountain, and, I don't see humans very often. It's really just either coyotes and javelinas, which are these wild pig things that you will only really see in Arizona. So if you come up here, be ready for some wild pig action. And the raisins are giant. Like they're bigger than my tiny little city dog, that I moved out here. So one day I'm walking on my driveway and I'm thinking, how am I supposed to put them in the book? And then one of the ravens dropped a feather at my feet, and it was the most woo-woo Sedona moment. It was like,
yes,
oh,
for sure. What a sign. Yes.
Right? And I still have the feather because I'm like, I'm holding on to this. And because I tend to take things very literally, I was like, let me put the ravens in as a character. So they sort of embody the natural world. They're like a Greek chorus complaining about what humans are doing to the land, because, when you live out in nature, you get more cognizant of, animal habitats being destroyed. And, as more houses get built, there's less land for the animals to run around. So, I really wanted them to tap into that a little bit.
I love that you gave animals a voice.
I feel like I had to. The ravens are outside. I think they'd get mad at me.
They sent you a feather so that you would get the point.
They did. They were like, listen, human, do it right. Do it right. So I hope they're happy with me.
Right? Well, from your bio, it sounds like you must have been in New York writing for all of these places, right?
I was in New York for about 20 years.
Wow.
And I was deep in the fashion world. I always wanted to write, but I wanted to go, immigrant parents are like, if you're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer, at least make sure you have a job with whatever you study.
Right.
So I said, okay, let me go into journalism. No MFAs for me. I'll just go to journalism and let's see what happens. And I managed to get a job at Vogue right out of college. And this is like 1999, right? I was like wearing combat boots and had spiked hair. I was the least Vogue person at Vogue. It was almost like my finishing school, because they taught me how to wear heels and do makeup and what have you. And then, in the journalism industry, you tend to get pigeonholed, so I couldn't get a job out of fashion, right? And it's not that I didn't love fashion. It was amazing. But, there are people who are fashion historians who really, live for fashion. And I wasn't one of those people. I enjoyed it, liked the magazines, but that was kind of the extent. But
right.
So I kept staying in the fashion world, just, and then I started to be really unhappy doing it because, just to be very frank, I was not the archetype for a fashion editor, right? Which is usually tall, willowy, rich, white. I was short, curves, I'm brown. I can't afford Manolo Blahniks on my salary.
What?
I really felt like a fish out of water, And I think a lot of that comes into my work now, because I like to showcase people like Ronnie who don't feel like they belong somewhere. And then, in like 2013 or so, the industry started to get weird. Like magazines are closing, websites are closing, there's just fewer jobs.
Right.
And I basically aged out. At 35, I was too senior to get a job. And
oh my gosh.
I didn't expect that. So I wrote a book, Fashion Victim, where I basically murder a lot of people in the fashion industry. It was very cathartic. And then I moved out to Arizona to be with my dad because he was by himself. And, I was like, well, I don't have kids. Let's go do this. And I thought it would be like 6 months, and it's been 6 years. And, I love it out here.
Wow.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Wow. I was going to ask you if you're going through culture shock not being in the big city, but it sounds like you adapted just great.
I was in New York, for my launch, and I'm just not ready to be back in New York. It exhausting. And I love New York, but it was a lot. It is a lot. I'm always very happy to come back to my hideout, where it's quiet and I don't have to wear heels ever. I can live in my Birkenstocks and it's great.
I love that. And I have to ask, because you brought up, in the book, you're in the wellness and the crystals. And for people who haven't been to Sedona, it is like the most woo-woo city ever. And you can walk in almost everywhere and get some sort of different psychic reading. You can get a, acupressure. It's really you can get amazing. Anything.
And the spas are fantastic. And the book really goes into wellness as a capitalism moment. Like, you cannot buy your way into being well.
Right.
And it's more, it's not, while it is set in Sedona, I feel like it could have been set in any other, like Tulum or Bali or any other, or even LA, like just where the wellness world, gathers.
Right.
And it's really going into that real true wellness does not come from buying things. There's no shortcut. There's no crystal that's going to, automatically make you better and make you well and heal you. You have to do the work.
Right.
So that's sort of what this book is knocking, as opposed to knocking, actual healer. So that was one of the things that I was, sort of agonizing over, because I'm a little woo-woo. I love my astrology.
Right.
I love my tarot. I love people who are witches. I think that's cool. Great. Awesome. Do you?
Right.
So I wanted to go after, in the book, the people who are not really healers, the ones who are only in it for the money or the fame.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like that was an important distinction to make.
Yeah, for sure, because there are plenty of spiritual healers out there, because I'm kind of woo-woo as well, that I've met that are life changers. I mean, they really can help people.
For sure.
But every one of them, though, will tell you the same thing you just said. I can't give you a magic pill or a magic crystal. You have to actually sit down and do the work. But here's some steps you can try, and so there is a difference.
Yeah, and I've met, and there are characters in the book who are real healers, and you start to follow their journey and how they are viewing the people who are like Marley, who really just wants to be the queen of Sedona, and it's like, well, that's not the right way to do this. So yeah, there's a lot in the book, and I think one of the things people might be surprised by is because it's wellness, but I included people's reaction to the main character, who's, Pakistani American, her background is Muslim, and a lot of it came from real things that have been said to me, not just in Sedona. I mean, this is stuff that's been said to me by wellness people in New York or in LA. It's not an Arizona-focused bit of racism, but there are a lot of microaggressions that will make you cringe and laugh because, I like to make it funny. But, it is really interesting to see people's responses to that, because I try to always include things that have actually been said to me in my books, which
my gosh,
shock a lot of people if they're not used to it. So yeah.
Yes, and it's good to get a little uncomfortable sometimes, because we can all live in our little bubble and not know that these things happen, and it's better to know that they happen so that hopefully we can make the world better.
Such a very, wellness is a very white woman-driven industry. The ones making millions and millions, at the top are white. But it's interesting how a lot of the practices are pulled from different cultures. But those cultures aren't necessarily celebrated or held up in any way. So it was really diving into that, and the way people would fetishize India and the subcontinent, but then the second they find out Ronnie's Pakistani, they would freak out, and be like, oh, no, we can't tell people that, So it was a little bit of fun for me to write.
Yeah, and I think that's cool that you put that in the book, because, like I say, people we live in a bubble, and it's good to get that out there and get that other viewpoint.
For sure, absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you, because I think a lot of both of your books sounds like. Are you still there? Okay, I hope she's going to call right back because Blog Talk sometimes does things like that, but her call just dropped. So I will vamp a little bit here and see if we can get Amina back on here. But I wanted to point out that there are influencers, and reality versus fiction, and it's very hard sometimes to tell the difference. And I'm hoping Amina comes back in here so that she can give her opinion. But in my opinion, there she is. All right.
The downside of living on a mountain is that I'm back. Is that the phone calls drop?
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, I was like, oh my God, what happened? So, guys, if you ever want to pack up all your things and leave the city and move to middle of nowhere, please understand that your Wi-Fi is going to be terrible and your phone is going to be awful. Like, I was not prepared for that.
Yes, I was imagining you out in your driveway, Lion King-ing your phone. Come on.
Yeah, just please. Sorry.
That's okay. I was in the middle of asking you about the difference between, reality versus fiction with influencers, because I feel like we live and it probably has always been this way. It just wasn't so in your face because we didn't have social media before. But social media makes people look perfect. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, so it was for me coming from the magazine and their website world. It was very much an interesting transition to seeing the rich celebrities looking perfect and photoshopped to everyday people who are now influencers looking that way. And from my perspective, obviously nothing is real, right? All these photos, nothing is real. I think people who consume a lot of social media and influencers need to, first of all, don't compare your life to them because their lives are just as crazy. And they still have problems. They just have really good Photoshop skills,
Yeah.
Or it's sort of like when you see, photos of the Red Rocks or, even Horseshoe Trail further away. It's these beautiful photos, but what you don't see is that 20 or 30 people behind that person lining up to take the same photo, right? Mm-hmm. So reality and what you're seeing online are very different things. And I think it's really important that people understand that distinction.
For sure. And I think about, if you think about when you're a kid and you look at your parents and you think, oh my gosh, they know everything. They're like a god. And then you turn 30 and you look at your parents and go, shoot, you didn't have a clue what you were doing. And they're like, nah, I was faking it.
Yeah, everybody's
That's kind of the same thing.
That's always, people are like, what's your process? And I'm like, my process is winging it because there is no grand plan here. I really was just like, let me try writing a book and see what happens.
Well, I was going to ask you about our listeners are always really interested in a writer's journey, and it sounds like you always wanted to be a writer, but you sort of went into journalism. How different was it? What was it like for you to decide, okay, I'm going to write a novel. Now what do I do with it?
I think that the hardest part of making that switch was shutting off that voice in my head that said, oh, you're not a writer. Like, you don't have an MFA. I think that voice stopped so many of us from chasing dreams and what have you. And so in about 2013, 2014, I had hit a rather low point. I'd been laid off, and it had been a public layoff. So people had written like blog posts about me, and I was like, oh my God, how do any of you know who I am? This is so creepy, right? And my mom had passed away, and she was like the driving force for me being in fashion because she loved it. It was one things I had done that she was very proud of. So I had stayed in fashion, and then so I lost my cheerleader with my mom, and I lost my job, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? I literally wasn't leaving my apartment. I was like, I needed something to hold on to. So I thought, you know what? I had an idea back, 10 years prior or whatever, that wouldn't it be funny to set serial killer in the fashion world, and no one would believe that she's the killer because people think fashion girls are stupid. And obviously, I think that's untrue. I think that they're not. But I was like,
Right.
okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna take this chance. Whatever happens, at least I'll have tried. So I gave myself a year to sit down and try. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no outline. I was just like winging it. So what I would start doing is, I was used to writing blog posts, like 100, 200, 300 words. So I would start with that. And then I would add to it the next day. And then I would add to it some more until I would actually get a chapter. I definitely had to learn how to think longer term, to think about how to relate everything back towards the ending. It was definitely a challenge, but I really do think that once you stop telling yourself, no, I can't do that, you can do anything. So
True.
It's really about changing your mindset. Yeah. So now I'm like, I want to write this book and it's going to be weird. It's like, I can do it. Let's try it. Let's have some fun. I feel like as adults, we're less likely to want to just try something, because we're scared of failure and we're scared of people saying no. But you know what? Failing is not the worst thing in the world. Failing is where you learn who you are and you learn from it and you learn what you're capable of. And if somebody says no, well, my first book, I had over 2 years of publishers saying, absolutely not. No way. We're not publishing. So I've had so many no's, I could probably wallpaper my house. And that's fine. You know what? It only takes one person saying yes to make things happen for you. So you just have to find that one yes. And that yes leads to more yeses. And there might be some no's along the way after, but still, just get to that one person. So anyone who wants to write, just keep going. Keep going, keep working on making yourself so good that and then see where you get.
Definitely. And I always used to tell myself when I was going through all the rejections, God, it was soul crushing sometimes. But I had a sales and marketing background, and in sales, you're always telling yourself, thank God for the no, because now I'm one step closer to the yes. Get the no's out of my way so I can get to the yes. And, just keep in mind you only need one yes. So get through the no's as fast as you can. Thanks for that no. Now I can move on, And
I think that the writing community is so supportive that even if you're being published from a very small indie publisher, people will help you. They will talk to you. They will retweet your book. They'll post it online. Like, there's such a supportive, which is, by the way, was the exact opposite of the fashion world. Like, I was shocked at how supportive the writer industry people are. I was like, oh my gosh, you want to help me for no reason? What's right. There's got to be a catch, right? No, they were just so nice. It was like, wow, this is different. I like it.
That is my favorite part of the writing world, is that it is very supportive, and sometimes you can write a fan letter to an author that you love and they, give you encouragement. It's not like any other industry out there.
I would recommend always writing a fan letter to a writer you like, because it is such a blessing to get those. Like I will get one and I'm like, oh, thank you. Because
right?
It's a very solo. It's a very isolating experience, right? You're in your room or your office or wherever you write, and you're, for like a year or two, you're just banging away at it. So it really meant a lot to me, or I felt seen in this book, and it's like, oh God, okay, yes, that's so cool.
Yeah, and for readers out there who are listening, when you send an email or a private message or whatever to an author that you love their book, you never know, they could have gotten one of those horrible rejections that day, and your message can make all the difference because sometimes we really need that.
Review. Yeah.
Or
like there's the counter side of that. People love when you're on social media, people love to tag you in their reviews. And if it's a nice review, that's great. But what if it's somebody who the book didn't work for, which, listen, your book is never going to work for everybody. There's always going to be people who don't get it. And that's, you have to accept that, right? But when they tag you in a not so nice
please
review,
don't tag the author.
Please, would you like to just crush my heart? Here, let me take it out for you. Just stomp on it. Thank you.
There is not enough chocolate when you guys tag us in bad reviews. Please don't do that.
Oh, my God. Yeah, because it's not like we can change the book.
Right. It's too late. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah. And it's also like what one person hates about a book, another person loves, you know? So you're just kind of like, you know, write the book that makes you happy. Write the book that you're most proud of, and don't worry about the rest. Because, you know, we're all going to have haters, but we're also going to have people who love it. And that's your audience right there.
Right. Before my first book came out, I can't remember which author it was, but it was some New York Times author who had posted a blog, and it has saved me my whole writing career because they posted this blog called My Husband Hates Chocolate. And she was talking about that there are actual people on the planet who hate the world's most perfect food. And she's like, I don't understand how anyone could hate chocolate, but he hates chocolate. And she compared that to books. And she said, you can write the very best book that you've ever written in your whole life. But if there are people who can hate chocolate, there are people who are going to hate your book.
And that is the truth. That is the
and that's so true. Yeah. So anyway, that has always carried me. I'm like, well, they probably hate chocolate.
Read reviews. Yeah, I like people. I don't read reviews. I don't go on Goodreads. I don't, because I feel like that's for readers. You know, I think writers do not go look at your reviews. Stay away from that. Don't look at your Amazon reviews. You know, just let it wash off you. You know, like don't let it get to you. Don't read them. But sometimes the good ones are great, but also they can also make you have a bit of a, well, I'm amazing, aren't I? I'm gonna. Right. Nobody can edit me now. And it's like, no, that's not true either.
You get that next edit letter. Yeah.
Yeah.
That bubble like doesn't last very long.
Of what you did wrong. Yeah.
Yes. The righteous indignation of obviously they were skimming. I give myself 24 hours of righteous indignation when I get edits.
I think I'm so used to being edited because of, you know, being in website
journalism.
That I don't take it personally. But sometimes when I find myself getting a little indignant, that's when I'm like, let me take a step back and come back to this, you know?
Yeah, come back later.
I try to get to a point where I'm, you know, where it's like, it's not personal. This is about taking your work to the next level. So let's get into that mindset and try not to, you know, make a voodoo doll of your editor, because that's not going to help you.
Right.
It's really not.
No. So speaking of, what's next for you? What do you have coming next after this book?
Oh, I am in edits for my third book, which will be, you know, so my first two books I think were really funny. I think, you know, I like some humor with graphic violence, because otherwise violence can be too much, you know. Like the first book, it was, you know, she's murdering people wearing hermanolos, and hermanolos get ruined, you know, and that's what she's worried about. And then the second one, it was like, there's just some funny moments. This I really feel it's a little bit of departure. It's diving into the folklore of my family. So my father's family, they're Sufi, and they grew up with a lot of jinn stories, you know, which are like these not demons, but they're these beings that are a big part of the Islamic world. And it's about this woman who is so super assimilated that she doesn't believe in anything and doesn't believe in religion, and she's being haunted, but she doesn't believe it. And so you're going through, and all these things are happening to her, and at the same time she's being stalked, and people are attacking her, and she's just like, I'm losing my mind. So it's kind of like her journey as to what happens, and works in all the weird stories my dad used to tell me as a kid. So it's been really fun to put that in there.
I love that. That sounds fantastic. So if people want to get in touch with you after they read the book and keep track of you so they can get this new book, where can they find you online? Are you on social media?
I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, and it's Dramina, DRRRAMINA. I tweet a lot about my dog. Get ready.
Aww.
I tweet about my dog and the coyotes outside, because there's two coyotes who have just decided that this is where they live, and that's, you know, it's just fine. This is their land too. And we kind of have a nice little relationship going. You know, they stay away from my dog, but they let me know they're around. It's nice. So I like to put a lot of wildlife up if I can. So it can get a little silly.
Oh, that's okay. That's my favorite kind of social media. Well, thanks for being here. We'll have to have you back when the next book comes on. That sounds fascinating.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I would love it. And now I need to go get some books about werewolves in Sedona because,
right?
That is so up my alley. Yeah.
Right? Okay. Well, let me know what you think. I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here.
Much, Lisa.
And
Thank
everybody
you.
go grab Kismet. You will love it. Okay. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.